Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I want to talk about for loops and how they work. Okay, so we're going to get into loops. You saw that we did a lot earlier when we were using the turtle module. So hopefully they're a little intuitive to you by now. But now let's use them for more, I guess, realistic purposes, right? Things to do with numbers and manipulation of data. So not only can you use it for visual graphics, but you can use it for anything now. That's what I'm going to teach you. So if you're making your own game, you'll be able to use it after learning these things. Or if you were creating your own script, maybe you're at a job, whatever is the case, you're going to become more familiar with loops, and it's going to help you do a lot of powerful things, okay? So let's get started how loops work. Essentially, it's a way of doing something multiple times. Whenever you think, I need this done a lot of times, what can I do? For example, if somebody told you print out numbers from 1 to 2, you'll be like, okay, I'll just write print 1 and print 2. Good. But now what if that same person told you print numbers from 1 through 10? You'll say, okay, I'll just write print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5, all the way up to print 10. Whew, a lot of typing, but hey, it wasn't so bad. Now let's say I tell you to print up to 1,000. Could you type that? Of course you can. Would it take you maybe 2 hours, 3 hours? Maybe. You'll copy paste, you'll do tricks. It'll be harder. Now, if I tell you to type in 1,000,000, it's going to get much, much, much harder. Okay, so for loop helps us overcome the burden of doing repetitive tasks. So let's try something. Okay, let's say I want to do something 5 times. That's how I would say it. Okay, I want you to look at it less from Python syntax specific perspective of I want to zoom in microscopically, and what is I? It's hurting my eyes, and what is range, and what does it do? And I'm getting a headache over here. And where do I put a colon? Where I want you to read this as do something 5 times. Okay? That's how I want you to read it. Do something 5 times. That's what this is saying. And here I'm going to say print hello. So if I told you do print hello 5 times, that's how you would think of it. You would go, okay, print hello 5 times. You would say do something 5 times, and that something is print hello. Okay, I want you to get an intuitive sense of this, so then you can reproduce these and do them on your own, away from the screen. Okay, so for example, now let's run this code and let's see what it does. And you can see it printed out hello multiple times. Now you might be asking, what is I? If you don't already know, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it banana. The code will still run. What we need to do is break this down one line at a time if we need to look at it more introspectively and see what's going on. So what is range of 5? Well, let's check it out. Let's see what range of 5 is. So I'm going to print this out. Range of 5 is really a list of numbers from 0 through 4, okay? So to use loops, you need to know what a list is. Since we've covered what a list is, there you go. So range of 5 really evaluates to this, okay? When you write, the reason why I should write list here is because Python hides it, it secretly writes it, and you can't tell what it is. And especially since you're starting out, this is going to confuse you when it says that, okay? When you get more advanced, you'll know why it says this. But for now, I'm going to not hide it, unhide it, and take out the actual form of what it looks like. And I know that if I call list, it'll show you like the actual type of what it's doing under the hood. So essentially, whenever you see a range of 5, you should think, oh, that's just this. It's a list containing 5 elements starting from 0 all the way up to 4. Okay, so now we can start to break all of this stuff down. We can go, okay, if range of 5 is really this, so range of 5 is actually that, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The first time, right, let me write this code here. Let me change this hello, and let me change it with an I. Okay, and let's do that. And you see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. What happened there? So let's see. The first time we ran the code, I is 0, so it prints out 0. The second time we ran the code, I went and became the second element of the list, so I became 1. Then where I was here, it became 1, it printed out the 1. Then I became 2, it put 2 here, printed out 2. Then it became 3, 3, 4, and printed out 4. And there you go, you see all of that on the right hand side. 0 got printed, then 1 got printed, then 2. That's why it's all separated by a line. Okay, so that's really what that I there does. Could we call this number? Yes, we can, and that's actually a better variable name. So my suggestion to you, especially if you're starting out with programming, never ever use one-letter variables. Never. Okay? So even if you think you can use an I here or an X or Y, don't do it. Take your time and pick better variable names. So I'm going to change this with number because number is that variable. This variable we created on the fly, and I'm going to say from 0 through 4. Now let me tell you something about the range function in Python. The range function takes start and stop, okay? But it's kind of like this if you have to think about it mathematically. It includes this point, which is why I put this here, and it goes up to but does not include the stop, okay? So the range function takes in two arguments, start and stop. So if I gave it 1, or let's say I gave it 0, and let's say I gave it 10, you get back, let's just do 2 because I'm lazy. You get back 0, 1, and 2. Well, what if I wanted to print up to from 20 to 40, right? What if I wanted to do that? Well, I can certainly write a list from 20 to 40, right? I can go 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, all the way up to 40, but that would take a long time. Let's use range to generate that on the fly. Let's start with 20 and go up to 41, but not including 41. It excludes the 41. So this actually translates to a list starting from 20 going up to 40, and if we print it out, you can see it goes from 20 all the way up to 40. So loops are great. Now, in the next video, I want to talk about while loops. But before I get to that, I want to tell you something. So up until now, we've done a lot of Python syntax stuff, learned the basics of Python and how it works, programming specific syntax, where do you put the colon, where do you do this. Now, after this point, especially after the while loops, we're going to get into exercises, and we're going to kind of drill and kill exercises. I'm going to make this the best Python course there is for learning Python, hands down. What's lacking from a lot of the online video courses are exercises, and I'm going to give you guys so many exercises, it's going to hurt your brain, but in a good way, whereas it makes you smarter and you get better. Because without doing exercises, you will not get better. You can look at me write code all day long. You're not going to get better because of that. You need to do it on your own, no matter how simple it is. And while Code Academy and all those things are great, they handhold you quite a bit, which means that you're not really learning a lot of those things, okay? So we're going to take a break from a lot of these tutorials and do exercises, really get these ideas down, okay? What do I mean by an exercise? Let's do an exercise right here, right now, okay, live. I'm gonna leave this here for you guys because I wanna leave this link into the YouTube description so you can actually go look at these notes, okay? So I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna leave this as notes. Print numbers from 20 through 40, including 40, right? Or rather, I can say through 241, and I can say excluding 41. That's probably a better way for me to write it because that's how Python thinks of it. Okay, now let's do an exercise. Let's say that we take numbers from a list, sum them up, and return them. What do I mean? If I give you a list containing 1, 2, 3, you should give me back 6 because 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. So if I gave you this list, you should give me back a 6. But now let's also start adding together everything we've learned so far. Let's create a function, okay, that takes in something and then does it. So we're gonna build up to that, okay? So first let's just write something using a for loop that sums up all the numbers in the list and then returns them back to us, okay, or prints them out back to us. So let's do this. Let's say count is equal to 0. So we're going to use some variable to keep track of every number. So essentially then we can say that if when we go through the loop, we can say, okay, I want you to add 1 to count. Then when I want to go through the loop again, I want to say add 2 to count. Then when I go through the loop again, I want to say add 3 to count. Okay? And so in the start, you'll have count being 1. Then you'll have it being 1 plus 2, so 3. And then you'll have it being 2 plus 3, so 6. So you should get, back 6. So let's try it. So I will say for number in range, let's say range. What will I say to range to create a list from 0 to 3 or 1 to 3 basically? I would say 1 to 4. Okay, this creates a list of 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I'm gonna say range 1 through 4. Okay, now let's do how can we increment count. Okay, I know that number is going to be 1 the first time, then 2, then 3. That's not a problem. So number is good, what we're getting with number. But how can I increment it to count every single time? Here's what I will do. I'll say count is equal to count plus number. Okay, what does this mean? Here's what this means. This says I want the new count to be, so the new count to be here. New count is equal to old count plus number. Okay, but so this is saying my new variable count is going to be what my old variable count was plus number. Okay, so the first time we go through the loop, the number is going to be 1. Old count is going to be 0. Okay, and so it's gonna say now count is 1. Okay, then when we go through the loop the second time, number is going to be 2. Oh, by the way, this count is going to turn to 1, right? Because we redefined what count is. Then what's going to happen is that number is going to be 2. So essentially, you're going to get back count plus number, which is going to evaluate to count plus 2. And number is 2, and count was 1. So this is going to evaluate to 3. Store count as 3. Then you're going to get back count plus number here again, right? And then you're going to get, so the number is now this time going to be 3. And so you get back count, which is 3 plus 3. This evaluates to a 6, and our loop ends. Okay, so let's just undo this damage that we've done. And let's check it out. Let's print count. So we run through this entire loop. Right? And once we're done running through this entire loop, we print out count. It should be, in this case, 6. So let's check it. Okay, and you can see that count does indeed give us back a 6. Well, that's great that we wrote a for loop that runs for the numbers 1, 2, and 3. What if we want to write this for loop and we want it to run, right? We want it to run and sum up lists for any list given to it, any size list. It could be a size 1 list, size 30 list, size a bajillion list, whatever. Okay, so let's see how we do it, okay? Because practice is key, right? How do you go from conscious competence to unconscious competence? That's how Jordan Belfort says it, right? The guy in Wolf of Wall Street, the movie who Wolf of Wall Street was the person who Wolf of Wall Street was based on. He defines 2 concepts: conscious competence and unconscious competence. What is conscious competence? That's you thinking about something and then being good at it. What's unconscious competence? You get so damn good at what you do that you don't even have to think about it and you do it. Okay? So how do we go from conscious competence, you looking at your notes, you really thinking about it and how does a function work, to like you just writing code? Is practice. Okay, there's no substitution for that. The only thing that you can do is hard work. Okay, there's no getting around it. There's no you can't watch somebody else's videos or my videos and just sit there and try to synthesize the information and be like, why am I not getting it? You can't just take notes all day from your professor. You have to try to do this stuff on your own. End of rant. Let's continue. So let's write this function that can take in any sized list and sum it up. Okay, so I'm going to say define function. Okay, so let's just write a little note at the top so we know what we're doing. Write a function that sums all elements of a list and returns them. Okay, that's what this is doing. That's what returns them. Let's just put a little thing here like this. All right, so let's write this function. I'm gonna say define. That's the first step to defining a function. And I'm gonna say sum list, okay? So the function is called sum list. It takes in one argument. Let's make that argument be whatever, my list, okay? You can call it whatever you want. You can call it A, B, C, X, Z, but remember my rule, try not to name things as one letter variable. Try to make it more descriptive. So I'm assuming I'm gonna get a my list or a list as input. So I'm gonna call it my list. So I'm gonna hit enter now. What's the next part, okay? Let's think about it. So the next part I wanna put here is I want to have a counter variable, right? That's what we had when we were writing this for loop. And I want to say for number in, well, what's the list we're working with? Here, the list we were working with was 1 through 4, right? Kind of like this list. So imagine if we had that list as my list. Well, we know it's called my list. Whatever list we get is called my list. And so just so you guys know what we're kind of doing is eventually what we want to be able to do is say sum list and pass it the list 1, 2, 3, and this should give us back a 6. Okay, so we want to say assert that sum list is this is equal to 6. Okay, so this is a nice little test for you guys which asserts things. For example, if I write an assertion that's false, it's going to give me back false. So if I said 5 is equal to 6, my code is going to yell at me. Hold on, I'm obviously having an error here because I'm writing funky business. But you can see I get an assertion error. It goes, hey, 5 is not equal to 6. But if I go 6 is equal to 6, you can see that assertion gives me a nice little 3 here, right? Which is, or sorry, does it give me 3 there? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, what? So assertion basically just doesn't give you an error, okay? When assertion works, it just doesn't give you an error, okay? So assertion doesn't give me back anything. It just gives me back no error when it works, and it gives me a big, red, angry, scary looking error when it's wrong. So I want to have this assertion here. And why this assertion will be helpful to me is it's going to test my code. Okay, let's have another assertion. And let's say 4. And this should give me back 10. So I'm also teaching you guys how to test your code. So once I write this function, you should be able to call the function by saying sum list, passing it any list. In this case, this list 1, 2, 3, and it should give you back a 6, and it should give you back a 10. When you run this code, if it doesn't give you an error, that means it's passed all of these test cases. If it fails, it means it failed one of these test cases, and your code is wrong. All right, let's keep going. So I want to say for number in my list, right? That's the list I get. So remember, this list is going to be, if we pass this test case, right? If we give it this test case, then list is going to be 1, 2, 3, really, right? So let's just say my list. And what I want to do is, what do I want to do now? I want to go count is equal to count plus 1. Okay. So even though we're doing this exercise right now, I'm going to have you guys do it again in the exercises portion, just so you can do it from scratch. For now, just watch along and get the concepts and how it works. Okay, so I increment count by, what should I increment count by? I don't want to increment it by 1. That would be wrong. I want to increment it by the actual number, right? So I want to say number here. Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote this wrong. I'm silly. I meant to increment it by number up there. Hopefully that didn't throw you off too much. Okay, so but for you guys, when you guys look at the notes, it's going to be fixed. Okay, I changed it to number. Sorry about that. All right. So whatever count was plus the number from the list. Okay, great. And now at the end, we have to say return count. Okay, I'm going to format it a little bit nicer. Let's remove some of these extra spaces and let's save it again. And now I'm going to run it. And if I don't get back an assertion error, which I didn't, that means it runs perfectly. Imagine if, okay, so if I said 1 plus 2 plus 3 should not give you a 6, let's say I said it should give me a 7, you'll see that it gives me an assertion error. It says, hey, calling some list on 1, 2, 3 does not give me a 7. So it should give you back a 6, okay? That's good. And just for sanity check, let's run it and print something. Let's say 1, 2. What should that give us? That should give us a 4, right? Or sorry, 3. 1 plus 2.